The anime starts with a tragic accident involving a truck. A man from Japan who doesn't have a job sadly passes away. But then, something unusual happens, and he's born again in a fantasy world as Rudius. In this new world, he becomes the child of Paul Greyrat, who's really good with swords, and Zenith, who's great at healing. They also have a maid named Lilia. Surprisingly, Rudius remembers his old life and his not-so-great habits. One day, he gets hurt while playing and his mom quickly casts a healing spell on him. This piques his curiosity, and as he grows up, he quickly learns how to read and starts to study magic. Sometimes, he sneaks into the storage room with magical books to learn on his own. One day, while trying to use a medium-level magic spell, he accidentally damages the house, which really surprises his parents. His mom sees this and decides to hire a magic teacher named Roxy. She's an experienced adventurer and a talented magic user, which makes her perfect to teach Rudius about magic. But at first, she's not so sure about teaching a young boy. She thought he was just a spoiled kid whose parents thought he was a genius. But then, she's amazed when she sees that Rudius can cast spells without saying the magic words. That makes her take his training more seriously and tell him he has great potential. She teaches Rudius about the world, and warns him about monsters called Superds with green hair and a red diamond on their foreheads. We learn that Roxy is a bit of a tsundere and cheeky. Later we see the Greyrat family throw a welcoming party for her. Rudius promises to make the most of this second chance at a happy life and puts in a lot of effort. His past life wasn't great, he was reclusive and didn't achieve much. While training with Roxy, Rudius thinks about his old life, being kicked out of his home, and the accident with the truck. He was trying to save a group of teenagers when it happened. Now, he's turning 5, and Roxy surprises him with news. She's taught him everything she can, and he's going to have a big test tomorrow to graduate from her teachings. The next day, Rudius sets out on a journey outside his home, but he's still dealing with anxiety and past trauma. He notices that Roxy has become well-liked in the village, even though people are usually prejudiced against her because of her appearance. During the exam, Roxy shows Rudius a spell and tells him to do the same. Rudius discovers newfound confidence within himself and manages to summon a huge thunderstorm. Seeing this, Roxy gets happy and tells him he passed the test. After the exam, Roxy leaves on her own journey and gives Rudius a pendant that's important to her. He sincerely thanks her for all she's done. With Roxy's help, Rudius overcomes his fear of leaving home and now he happily plays outdoors by himself. One day, during his outdoor adventures, he rescues a half-elf child named Sylph from some bullies, and they quickly become close friends. Rudius starts to develop feelings, but he stops himself when he thinks Sylph is a boy. Later, Rudius begins teaching Sylph magic, and it turns out that Sylph can cast spells without saying the words, just like Rudius. Time goes by, and after 6 months, suddenly there's a big storm outside. Rudius quickly brings Sylph to his house for safety. They decide to take a bath to freshen up, but here's where things get tricky. Rudius, with completely innocent intentions, unintentionally removes Sylph's clothes while getting ready for the bath together. To his surprise, he finds out that Sylph is actually a girl, and her name is Sylphiette. Rudius, shocked, suddenly feels really bad and says sorry to her. She quickly leaves his house, and even though he apologized, Sylphie starts avoiding him, which makes him even more upset. But a few days later, Sylphie approaches Rudius, and they sort things out. Rudius realizes how important Sylphie is as his first true friend in his new life, and he is determined to cherish their friendship. Sometime later, the Greyrat family is thrilled to learn that Zenith, Rudius's mom, is pregnant again. However, their happiness is short-lived when their maid, Lilia, reveals that she's also expecting a baby, the result of an affair with Paul. This news puts Paul in a difficult situation, and he is concerned about Zenith's reaction. To protect Lilia from Zenith's anger, Rudius devises a plan to shield her from the consequences, even though Lilia was the one who initiated things with his father. Rudius persuades his mother to forgive Lilia by having Paul take full responsibility for the situation. Lilia is grateful to Rudius and promises to serve him. A few months later, Zenith and Lilia give birth to 2 precious daughters, Norn and Aisha. In the meantime, Rudius receives an invitation from Roxy to join the prestigious Renault Magic Academy. Rudius discusses the idea of attending school with Sylphie to his father and asks him to cover her fees also, but unfortunately, he disagrees. Left with no other choice, Rudius asks him to find a job to earn the money for her tuition. Seeing his bond with Sylphie, Paul agrees to this condition. A few days later, while Rudius is doing combat training with Paul, they are visited by a beast woman named Ghislaine. Paul asks her to take care of Rudius. This surprises Rudius, and he's not sure what's happening. Suddenly, Paul challenges Rudius to a fight and knocks him out. When he wakes up, he's in a carriage, and Ghislaine hands him a letter from Paul. The message reveals that his father has arranged a tutoring job for Rudius to fund his and Sylphie's education. Paul had to do this forcefully because he won't be back for more than 5 years due to the job, and he knows Rudius doesn't want to be separated from Sylphie. With no other choice, Rudius agrees to this arrangement. Upon reaching his destination, Rudius meets Philip Greyrat, who is also the mayor and his father's cousin. Philip gives him a task: convince his daughter, Eris, to learn magic. If Rudius succeeds, he can take the job, to which Rudius quickly agrees. However, the task is more difficult than he thinks. When he meets Eris, she is very hostile and like those spoiled brats, who are full of themselves, making it hard to persuade her. To win her over, Rudius comes up with a wild plan to fake a kidnapping, and Philip is okay with it. The idea is to get closer to Eris, but things get crazy when real kidnappers show up. However, our Rudius is no crybaby. He uses his smarts and magic to turn the situation around and get them out of trouble. On their way back to town, Rudius and Eris run into some of the mayor's men, but it turns out the abduction was carried out by Philip's own servants, who are working with the criminals. Rudius is determined to protect Eris, so he confronts the bandits in a fierce battle until Ghislaine arrives to rescue them, defeating the enemies and capturing the traitor. When they return home, Eris finally accepts Rudius as her tutor and welcomes him into her household. Philip appreciates Rudius for safeguarding Eris and warns him not to reveal his connections with the Greyrat family, as he could become a target. Next day, Ghislaine starts teaching swordsmanship to Eris, while Rudius takes on the role of teaching magic, literacy, and math to both Eris and Ghislaine. At first, they struggle to keep up with his lessons, so Eris gets bored and starts skipping classes. To keep them engaged, Rudius decides to give her 1 day off per week. While strolling through town, Rudius checks out a big market. A seller, noticing his association with the mayor's family, offers him a bottle of suspicious liquid, which piques his interest. When Eris asks about the bottle, he avoids the question. Later, Rudius looks at an expensive magic book, and Eris tries to buy it for him using her grandmother's money. Rudius realizes that she doesn't understand the value of money and rejects her gift, explaining its importance. He suggests that her father give her an allowance so she can learn to manage money properly. On their way back, Rudius notices a castle traveling on the cloud, to which Ghislaine responds that it belongs to Perugius, one of the 3 heroes who defeated the Demon King. Later, with her father's allowance, Eris presents Rudius with the vial he was curious about. Eris pushes him to reveal what the medicine is, and Rudius confesses that it's an aphrodisiac. And yeah, that gets him in some trouble. A few days later, one of the maids approaches Rudius to discuss Eris's upcoming 10th birthday celebration. In their family tradition, they perform a dance during the celebration. Realizing the importance of Eris's dance, Rudius allows her dance teacher to use some of his tutoring time. This leaves him with free time in the mansion, which he uses to study various languages. On the other hand, Eris struggles to make progress in her dancing, and she even considers giving up. The dance teacher then asks Rudius for a favor, to convince Eris to continue dancing. Seeing Eris's confidence when she's around Rudius, the teacher asks him to be her training partner for a while, to which Rudius agrees, and he starts helping her with dance lessons. At the same time, Rudius continues to improve his language skills with Ghislaine's guidance. Eris gradually starts making progress in her dancing. When the special day arrives, Eris is nervous. During the celebration, a noble offers to dance with her, but they aren't in sync, and she messes up, embarrassing herself. However, Rudius steps in and becomes her dance partner. He instructs Eris to use her combat skills in her dance moves, and they manage to dance in perfect sync, saving the performance. Seeing Rudius dance, some of the noble girls approach him, which makes Eris jealous, and she drags him out of the hall. In her room, Rudius gives both Eris and Ghislaine a magic wand as a gift and symbol, as they are now magic casters. Next day, after the celebration, Rudius encounters Eris's grandfather, Sorrows, in a tower, and they notice a mysterious ball of light hovering in the sky. They both feel it might be an ominous sign, causing concern. 2 years fly by, and Eris, along with her family, secretly plans a birthday celebration for Rudius. Although he's initially sad because his own family can't attend due to increased monster attacks in the country. While he's playing alone, Eris's mother gives him an angry look, as she's never been fond of Rudius being there. The big day arrives, and everyone celebrates Rudius's birthday with joy, which surprises him, as he's never experienced this kind of love before. He gets a bit emotional, and suddenly, Eris's mother, Hilda, embraces Rudius and tells him that he's part of their family and she wants him to marry Eris. After all the festivities, Eris gives him a high-quality magic staff, which amazes Rudius, and everyone enjoys the celebration. Meanwhile, Philip expresses his desire for Rudius to marry Eris and become his successor, but Rudius doesn't agree with the plan. Later that night, Rudius is surprised to find Eris waiting for him in his bed. However, he makes a misguided attempt to be intimate with her, but Eris pushes him away, realizing he's done something wrong. Rudius sincerely apologizes, and Eris forgives him because it's his birthday. On the other side, Sylphie frequently visits Rudius's home and interacts with the growing Norn and Aisha. They have a conversation about Superds, the scariest demons in the world. Somewhere we see a massive cloud full of mana appear in the sky, capturing everyone's attention. A suspicious man confronts a dragon and mentions someone possibly trying to undo the seal on the Demon King. A childlike girl seems drawn to the red object in the sky. In another land, Perugius, a legendary figure known for defeating the Demon King, sends his servant, Almanfi, to investigate the anomaly in the sky and eliminate any suspicious individuals. Rudius, along with Eris and Ghislaine, goes out to an open field to test his new weapon. Ghislaine notices the massive cloud and tells everyone about the huge amount of mana gathering. As Rudius is testing, he comes under attack from Almanfi, who accuses Rudius of causing the massive mana materialization in the sky. However, Ghislaine comes to his aid. Suddenly, a large surge of light hits the ground, and Rudius holds Eris as the light surrounds them. Rudius finds himself in an unfamiliar realm that resembles his past self. Suddenly, he meets a mysterious entity who reveals himself as the human god. The god explains that this is his mental form and his physical body is fine. When he wakes up, he'll be back in his current body. The god tells Rudius that he has been transported to the demon's continent, a harsh land, and advises him to trust and assist the man he'll wake up beside. When Rudius awakens in his present body, he finds Eris sleeping next to him. Then he notices the man nearby, who turns out to be a Superd, a demon with green hair and a red diamond on his forehead. This initially scares Rudius. Despite his apprehension, Rudius manages to communicate with the demon using the language he learned from Ghislaine. The demon introduces himself as Rudyard. Rudius asks about Ghislaine, but Rudyard explains that he found Rudius with Eris. Eris wakes up, gets scared of Rudyard, and even tries to attack him, but eventually becomes comfortable with him. To Rudius's surprise, he realizes that both he and Eris are stranded deep in the demon continent with nowhere to go. Remembering God's advice, he asks Rudyard for help, and Rudyard agrees, swearing to take them back home. They embark on a journey through the desert, and under Rudyard's guidance, Rudius and Eris arrive at a nearby Magertia village, a demon tribe with blue hair. Coincidentally, this is Roxy's birthplace, and they meet her parents. Sitting around a campfire, Rudius learns about the tragic history of the Spurred tribe. They were manipulated by the Demon King Laplace, who gave them cursed spears, driving them to violent madness, even against their own people. Rudyard, now marked with a stigma on his forehead, carries a spear that once belonged to his son, whom he tragically killed in his own madness, ultimately breaking free from the curse. Rudyard is determined to restore the honor of the Spurred tribe. Seeing this, Rudius is moved and decides to help him in this mission. The following day, they leave Magertia village with a sword and a small sack given by Roxy's parents. The three of them set out on their journey to get Rudius and Eris back home. Along the way, they hunt monsters for food and spend time together, which creates a good bond between them. Upon reaching the city of Rikarisu, Rudyard, who is known as Dead End throughout the demon continent, is worried he won't be allowed to enter the city. To avoid drawing attention, Rudius disguises Rudyard's distinctive green hair with blue goo and pretends they are members of the Magertia tribe. Inside the city, they visit Adventurers Guild and apply to join under the team named Dead End. They are hoping that completing quests will boost Rudyard's reputation and earn them some money for survival. Unfortunately, the other adventurers in the guild don't take Rudyard seriously and mock them. Afterward, Rudius buys Eris a cloak, and they go out to eat. We see that some adventurers invite Eris to join their party, but a language barrier leads to a misunderstanding, resulting in a fight, with Eris attacking one of them. Later that night, God visits Rudius in a dream and advises him to accept a quest to find a lost pet, even though it doesn't pay much. Confused but trusting God, Rudius agrees to the quest. The next day, Rudyard uses his third eye to locate the kitten, which turns out to be more like a panther. It turns out, a group of adventurers is kidnapping animals to claim rewards for finding them. Yeah, we get these types of goons from time to time. When they confront the kidnappers, a fight breaks out, and Rudyard kills one of them, named Loman. Rudius is shocked and tries to explain the importance of retraining yourself from killing, but Rudyard struggles to fully grasp it. In the end, Rudius intimidates the remaining two adventurers and negotiates a quest exchange, allowing the Dead End team to take on more challenging quests than they would usually be allowed to. Later on, we see Roxy checking a bulletin board listing casualties of the Mana Cataclysm, fearing that she might come across a familiar name. However, not finding Rudius's name there, she leaves a note for him. Meanwhile, Rudius, Eris, and Rudyard take on a quest to investigate a monster in the petrified forest, only to discover that 2 other teams have also been assigned the same quest. When they arrive, tensions rise among the teams over who will claim the reward. Rudyard is concerned for the safety of a team consisting of younger adventurers when he sees them. Rudius suggests they should only intervene if absolutely necessary, hoping that sating them like knights in shining armor will definitely improve their reputation. However, as they team fight the monster, Rudius's delays in helping them, which results in one of their guildmates being killed. This really impacts heavily on his mind and makes him question his decisions. Rudyard and Eris save the rest, but Rudyard is very angry with Rudius. Later, they encounter a horse demon named Nukapra who tries to threaten them. In a surprising move, Rudyard reveals his true identity as the feared Dead End, causing panic, and they manage to escape. Rudius reflects on his action and, feeling guilty for everything, apologizes to Rudyard. He tried to manipulate events to their benefit, which only caused more harm. Rudyard apologizes too, recognizing how difficult it was for Rudius. They agree to work as a team where everyone's ideas matter. To avoid future panic and suspicion, Rudyard shaves his head, and Rudius gives him a bandana to cover his third eye. Rudius continues traveling with Eris and Rudyard to a coastal city on the edge of the demon continent. However, they don't know that Roxy is also coming to the continent to find Rudius, with 2 of Paul's former companions. Will they finally meet? Keep watching for part 2.